Hey, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Black Girl Encourage Her. I hope that you have been enjoying our series thus far as we are shining the light on men's mental health. We don't get a chance to talk about this enough. And I know my audience is primarily women, but ladies, we got to check on the men who we claim that we love, the men that we are raising. We've got to make certain that we are knowledgeable so that we can continue to support and encourage them the best way that we can. So today I am super excited to bring another man to the stage. Yes, ladies, it is raining men on the Black Girl Encourage Her this month. But this conversation is going to be really, really special. It's going to be a little sensitive in nature, so I just want to forewarn you. But we all grown here and we want to get this information. We want to have this as a conversation starter so that we can love and nurture the men in our lives. So without further ado, I want to bring this one to the stage. We got Reverend Mike. Hey, what's going on?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for your yes. Now, for those of you, introduce yourself to the people, and then we'll talk a little bit how we are connected.
All right, I will. So I am my name is Mike Travisano. I am a ordained Buddhist priest and I serving a local community here in central Pennsylvania. I also teach mindfulness to individuals and organizations, and I work for a, at this point, quite large telehealth company called Charlie Health that provides intensive outpatient services to adolescents, young adults, and adults up to folks up to age 49 for those who are suffering with something or living with something particularly difficult. So, yeah. That's me. I run a firm privately called The Art of Monday Morning, which is a way that I can talk to people one-on-one and with some mindfulness instruction and coaching and working through things that they may just have a hard time seeing clearly on their own.
I love it. I love it. And so now that you've heard who he is, I think you all can figure out where our connection is. So he is a good friend of my brother Lee. You all know Lee. And so I am grateful. I'm honored. And Mike was also very pivotal in me with my life personally as it pertains to one of my sons. So I am grateful that we are connected, and I'm so honored that you said yes to be a guest here today to talk about men's mental health. So let's dive in. Let's dive in. What is your experience? Let's go personally. Do you have an experience that you can share with us about your own mental health?
Good on you for like going right to the heart of it.
Yeah.
Particularly in the tradition that your brother Lee and I both study and work so closely with and find so deeply in our hearts. At the core of it all is this idea of recognizing that compassion is something that is born from the intimate experience of suffering, right? So
Mm.
that in other words, right, like we all know, we all have hearts that sort of readily open up to people that we love, right? Like that
Yeah.
one happens easy. The people, our family, our friends, right? But even beyond that, we all, I think, have this experience of knowing, like when you're in the grocery store, right? And you can just see, like you're like, some
Mhm.
person's going through something. Like you can just tell.
Yeah.
And that comes from the intimate knowledge of what it feels like to feel awful, whether
Mhm.
that's stress or anxiety, or all the way to depression or despair, all the way to thoughts of suicide, right? That I'm not unfamiliar with it. And
Mhm.
so in our Buddhist tradition, and not to say that this doesn't exist in other traditions, if Buddhism is the one that I'm familiar with, uh, this, if I can channel that, if I can understand that in my own existence, my own life so far, I have known periods of profound
Mhm.
despair. I certainly know what it feels like to feel stressed about work, right? I
Mhm.
certainly know what it feels like to feel anxious about somebody I care about and love. But more than that, I have known those moments in the past of loss and worthlessness and regret, right? In deep, deep ways. And a big part of transforming that in my own life has been um, finding the light within my own heart of
Mhm.
recognizing that everybody has that.
Mhm.
Everybody knows what this feels like. Men, women, old, young. You
Yeah.
know, this is a human birthright
Yeah.
that the price of these moments of like in real joy and love, the price
Mhm.
of that is that I know what it means to feel not those things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm happy to go specific if you want, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that was great. That was definitely one of those aha moments. It is from our own suffering. Hopefully, it will help us to be more compassionate to one another, hopefully, rather than making us bitter and angry and reserved and isolated.
you bring up you say it well, right? That
Mm,
it's a matter of transforming it,
yeah.
right? Um, that these things certainly can be a burden that's too heavy, that can
Mhm.
be overwhelming or feel overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
In really profound ways. But when the moment comes, or when an opportunity exists, or when there's a support network that can help each other, right? Like this wonderful podcast, right? That's
Mhm.
like serving to reach out to like
Yeah.
help people to discover each other, right?
Yeah.
uh, that maybe I can transform this. And I've always found, and I say this with like the people that I work with, that when these even really profound moments of suffering can be transformed to something um, that is the opposite of it,
Mhm.
uh, that it opens up an ability within our hearts to recognize suffering in others and to help, right, and to reach out to them. And I always kind of joke about it, that it's like the world's like hardest earned superpower, you know. Like, if I may, I hope that
Yeah.
he's okay with me saying it, like Lee,
Yeah.
like your brother, like, I mean, just one of the most compassionate,
Yeah.
big-hearted, incredible guys I know,
Yeah.
period. That doesn't come from luck,
Yeah.
right? That comes from incredible transformation of
Mhm.
suffering. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And speaking of my brother, and him and I've had this conversation on this show before, so it's not like a big secret. But my brother grew up rough. We grew up in the same household, same mother and father, in the same space, but he took the road of the street, the path of the street. So he had a very hard upbringing with the violence and the anger, and he was embedded in that. So I totally agree when you speak of his transformation, because it was a big shift. And we were talking earlier, maybe we can say it was through age. Maybe as he got older, he kind of mellowed it out. Maybe because he had kids, he mellowed out. But I really think it was due to the transforming of his mind. But
Yeah.
not everyone does that.
Yeah. And poor Lee, like using him as a case study.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think of uh, the that it wasn't in my thinking, that it
Yeah.
wasn't magic, that
Yeah.
he, I mean, there was grace there was support of a community, there was like something, there was an influence
Yeah.
from others that may have helped him, and he did it himself. Like, he
Mhm.
found
Mhm.
he sort of proved this incredible point that every one of us has the capacity to awaken to some truth, right? Whether it's Buddhist or Christian
Yeah.
or Muslim or Jewish, whatever it is, atheist, right? But some kind of truth within us that gives us meaning and hope, and then lends itself to skills to
Yeah.
be able to ask questions about our own mind and hearts, and to transform them from these experiences of suffering to ones of meaning, right? Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Now let's talk about it. Now, as a woman, and I can speak as, not that I'm a representative of all women, but I know what's available to us. I know if we say we have a problem, there are a slew of people. We're having conversation. We're discussing. We're empowering ourselves. We're getting our united, and we're getting the help that we need. Have you noticed a disparity when it comes to men, and particularly in the mental health industry?
I think uh, yeah, the short answer is yes. There
Mhm.
seems to be a disparity that
Yes.
men are like, particularly if I can, like
Yes.
stereotypical like dudes, right,
Yes.
are less likely to seek help, right? That there's a cultural
Mhm.
thing that has existed for as long as we've been around, that like for men to be stoic, to be to sort of fight through the things that we deal with, to be man enough, right? Even
Mhm.
that expression, man
Yeah.
up, like to like work through these things. And it can make it more difficult for a guy to look out for themselves in a way that they have every right to look out for themselves too,
Mhm.
right? And so I have noticed that, and also I noticed that seems to be lessening as we kind of, as our culture sort of blossoms into this new connected age, right?
Yeah.
Uh, of of seeing other guys like me, dudes like me, who are talking about, what it feels like to be depressed, right? Or what it feels like to have PTSD and to be working
Mhm.
through that, right? And so communities and companies, organizations are more opening up to
Mhm.
avenues that I think those guys would be more likely to take advantage of, which is wonderful
Yeah.
because, yeah, there is this general um, maleness thing that has a tendency to kind of keep guys from stepping into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I think it's high time that we shine the light just a little bit, and we want to make certain that men understand, right? Because men of a certain age, you've been brought up to say, no, you don't talk about it, you suck it up, you just keep going. But I hope that this conversation would help to break the mold. Like, it's not just with age. It is with the intention, it is with setting those goals to say, you know what, I need to have this awakening so I can be transformed.
The one thing that I've noticed in my own practice, so
Hmm.
I teach mindfulness, and nowadays mindfulness has this sort of air of meditation, that I'm going to practice
Hmm.
mindfulness by sitting here and being quiet, right? And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
but uh, but traditionally, mindfulness is much more about like asking myself questions,
Hmm.
like, do I understand? Like, do I know how I feel?
Hmm.
Which seems
Mm.
like a funny thing, right? Because,
Yeah.
like, of course I know how I feel. Well, I don't know. I can go like days or weeks feeling like depressed and not kind of reflect on it, but rather
Yeah.
sort of just swim in it, right?
Mm.
It's like a fish hook that just takes me wherever it wants to go. Do I
Yeah.
understand that I'm feeling that? And seeing it as an experience, not as a a definition of who I am. Even the way we talk about our emotions. I am depressed. I am angry, right? That am is like an equal sign. Like
Mm.
I equal anger, I equal depressed, right?
Mm.
And it takes on this whole me. What if I can start to see it as I experience anger? I am
Mhm.
experiencing depression. It doesn't own me. It doesn't define me. I
Yeah.
am, and then to start ask questions about it. Do I understand where that's coming from?
Yeah.
Do I understand the thoughts within me that are generating that? And more than that, do I understand the beliefs I have about myself and the world, and what it means to be a good person or what means to be a bad person, whatever those things are that's generating that thought? And most powerfully, is there another belief I have that is every bit as true as the first one that generated thoughts that led to emotions that were difficult, but that leads to different thoughts about different meaning I have about myself and life, and therefore maybe a different feeling about it. It might not be a pleasant feeling, right? Like for instance, if I lose somebody important to me, like
Mhm.
life is asking me to grieve, which is not
Mhm.
pleasant, right?
Right.
But the moment I start to, in my grieving, pile on top of it things like, I didn't do what I should have done, I didn't say what I should have done, this is my fault, things like that, that's suffering that maybe I don't need. Maybe I can start to let go of that.
Yeah.
So the practice of mindfulness is all about that. Can I get my arms around that in a way that can provide a path to transform the thing that I'm experiencing to something of my own choosing, even if it's not pleasant? And sorry, I know this is a long answer for you,
No, that's
but
good.
all right. Um, but one of the things I've always noticed with working with guys, like
Mhm.
guys, right, is that, you know, one of the basic first questions is, what emotions can you name that you're experiencing, right?
Mm.
Like what could you name, right? Of all the vast number of emotions that the human can feel. And not all the time, but it's not at all uncommon for guys to tell me, like, let's say the scenario is I was at work and somebody said something in front of my boss about like the job I did and it wasn't good, right? That's
Mhm.
the scenario. All right, well, what emotions did you experience when that happened? Anger,
Mhm.
frustration,
Mhm.
rage, right?
Mhm.
Like all of them are very like kind of um like culturally allowable guy
Yeah.
emotions,
Yeah, it's
right?
the commonalities, it's the cliche, right?
Right,
We would expect him to
right,
feel that way.
right.
Yes.
But if I were to ask this guy, like, well, what, do you feel it anywhere? Like, and they might say something like it's in my gut, it's in like, uh, I feel it like in my neck, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times, like the bodily sensations that they describe don't line up with like anger and frustration, right? Which
Mm.
tell me maybe there's something else going on there. Like, and that the
Mm.
anger, the frustration, the rage, the sort of typical dude, male, like allowed culturally emotions
Yeah.
are really serving as sort of a defense mechanism of, over something that is equally there, maybe more so, but not as um, accessible to them. Like for instance, like in the
Mm.
example I gave, like sure the dude might be angry that coworker said that, but what might really be happening is the guy feels like uh, insecure about his work. He
Mhm.
feels like maybe fearful for his job or what his boss is going to think about him.
Yeah.
Right? There's something underneath there that is more difficult, right? More like profound.
Yeah.
But until that guy is able to sort of
Hmm.
understand that that might be there, like handling the anger, reflecting on the anger, that might be fine. That might take a little of the heat off of the situation, but it's not going to necessarily transform what he's going through until we get to the stuff that's really, really going on for
Hmm. That's good. That's good. I would assume now, again, here's that stereotypical thinking of society. I would assume if, with the work that you do with men, that it's not an easy plight because you got to dig past all of that societal stuff to get to the root of it.
him. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It isn't
Mhm.
easy. But right back to the very first question you asked me, right, or one of the very first ones. A lot of it has to do with the ability to connect with the guy on
Mhm.
that, like I know that one. I know that experience that you're having, right? I know
Mhm.
like seeing it as anger and like, I'm just pissed, about this thing that happened. And being able to connect with the guy on that, that's just being a human. That's not being like a wimp or, or anything like that.
Mhm.
It's not being soft. That's just knowing what it is that is going on for me, right?
Mhm.
Because it's only when I really can look at what's going on for me that I can do something about it, right? If I keep these things sort of pushed down, they will play their role, they will show themselves,
Yeah.
right? So, but yeah, a lot of times it has to do with connecting with the guy on a way that helps them to know that, like, that's normal, that's human,
Yeah.
that's not that's something all of us have.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it goes back to the point you made about compassion. Like you have this level of compassion, this level of understanding because of your own experiences. So as much as we don't want to go through, the trials and tribulations of life, it does get us to this place where we are able to be a vessel, to be of support to someone else. Like you said, to normalize it, to allow them to feel that there's nothing abnormal going on here, that they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel like they're not alone going through a situation.
You know, one of the things that we practice, one of the earliest things that I will look to practice with somebody I'm working with, no matter what, male, female, um, some old, young, right, whatever, however they identify themselves,
Hmm.
is developing the ability to find a voice within themselves that can provide that kind of support. Because of course, I
Yeah,
would hope that they can reach out to people around them, to their community, to others that can help them. But even to do that, they need, like, something within themselves that says, "Hey, we need to take a different approach here."
yeah,
So the way that I have found helpful is, and we can do it right now, just a little tiny thought experiment. Like, if
okay,
you were to shut your eyes and just think of a person in your life who you love more than anything, that the moment you think of them, like, your heart just, like gets bigger, your chest kind of fills up, and it could be like, a family member, it could be a best friend, it could be a dog or a cat, it could be anybody, it could be just the moment you think of them,
yeah,
you want good for them.
yes,
And then the thought experiment is, with them in mind, imagine they're like right next to you.
hmm,
Imagine that whatever you're going through, just imagine that you could somehow take it off like it was a helmet and put it on them.
hmm,
And so all of a sudden, this person that you love more than anything and that your heart just like goes out to, like, imagine they were wearing what
ooh,
you're going through.
wow,
Now, the next part of the thought experiment is, what would you say to them?
hmm,
What would you, if you walked in a room and you saw them and they were clearly going through something, you said, "What's
yeah,
going on?" And what they told you was what you were going through.
hmm.
And at the risk of putting you on the spot, what's the first thing you'd want them to know?
I'm here. I'm here for you.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I ask this question all the time to clients, to groups, like, weekly. I mean, I ask this sucker weekly. I ask it to myself, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, weekly. The answers are always the same across all genders, across all ages. "I'm here. I love you. I got you. You're not
Mhm.
alone." Like, everybody, that's the first thing they say.
Hmm.
When I do this experiment myself, like, I notice that that is very different than the default that shows up in my brain of what I tell myself,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of the sudden now I've got a choice. I have how I
Mm.
usually talk to myself, and I also have how I would talk to somebody I love.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that experiment is, young, old, I mean, I work with, like, kids, 12, 11-year olds, up to, 49-year olds, older, right?
Yeah.
That everybody is able to answer that question, that there's no book to read, there was no class they had to
Mhm.
take, there was no nothing.
Yeah.
They know how to take care of somebody they love, right? And so all of a sudden, they've got it within themselves already. Every one of us has it within our hearts already, how to be good to somebody. So
Mhm.
now, can I point that same thing to myself? And, like, with my arm around Mike, metaphorically, right?
Yes.
Like, "Dude, I got you.
Yes.
My own inner voice, I call him dude because that's how I talk to my friends, right? So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
dude, I got you. What's up? What's happening, man?
Hmm.
And to be able to have that skill, and now we can go really digging into what are you going through? What are you feeling? How can we move past this?
I love that. That's really good, and it's very because we do tend to our inner voice tends to beat us up, but when we're speaking to someone else, it's all about love. It's all about compassion and grace and all of that good stuff. So it is a good reflection to say, "Hey, wait a second. Why is this inner voice beating me up?" But my outer voice would tell someone else, I got you, I love you, I support you. So we just have to learn how to, aim that around so that we become the beneficiaries of that as well. So I love that point. And that's a good exercise, everyone. So we got to make certain that you all do it. You all do it so that we're growing through this, right? We're all growing through this. Now, Mike, is there a difference between what a man would look like with depression than, say, a woman?
Look like how it would like present or how they would show
Or
it.
how they would behave or react, things of that nature.
I don't know that I know that there's a real difference in that way, right?
Okay.
Like depression shows itself to all of us in its own, special
Unique ways.
blend of herbs and
Mhm.
spices, right?
That's a good way. Yes, yes, it's
You know?
very unique, right? Because you
Yeah,
can have people who are depressed, but are still at work, they're still
absolutely.
at the soccer games, they're still present.
Yeah. Yeah. There's and it takes the form. It's usually not alone, right? Depression
Mhm,
brings along friends like anxiety
mhm.
and substance use,
Yeah,
right? It like these things become connected as we try to fight them, right?
yeah.
That what the model I find helpful for myself as a guy, but it seems to be applicable is I have this picture of perfect Mike. And
Mm.
he looks this way and he sounds this way and people think of him this way and he drives this kind of car and he
Hey.
has like you're right and perfect Mike is happy because
Yeah,
perfect Mike has everything he thinks he should have and he does everything he thinks he should be able to do. And I have not for one freaking day in my whole life seen myself as perfect Mike. Right?
mm,
Like I
mhm.
see my because I don't have what I think I should have. I don't do what I think I should do. People don't think of me how they I think they should. I do not drive. I don't know where the Ferrari is going to come from, but it's not here now, right?
Yeah,
And the gap between those two, the Mike I think I should be to be happy, and the Mike I'm pretty sure I am,
yeah.
is suffering in
Mm,
every way, right? Like maybe anxiety, if I can just stress out and worry about it, I can close the gap and be the person. Maybe it's depression or guilt or regret. Like maybe if I can just like fix that thing that I don't understand, even I can close the gap and
yeah.
be the person that I believe gets to be happy. And
Mm,
so depression fits somewhere in there.
yeah.
In the Buddhist tradition, we the Buddha taught that all suffering stems from three big categories, or they called them poisons. He called them poisons. The
Okay.
poisons of delusion,
Mhm.
anger, or delusion, hatred, and greed.
Mm,
And what he talked about, and kind of makes sense. Like hatred is like you shouldn't have what you have. You have no right to it. Greed is I want what you have.
yeah,
Like I don't have it, and you shouldn't have it. And I want it, right?
yeah.
And delusion is just not seeing clearly.
Mm,
And the teachings are that hatred and greed are sort of the children of delusion, that it's all a delusion, that it's just
mhm.
not seeing correctly. It's just not seeing the world. We're seeing the large, incredible, beautiful spaciousness of the world
Yeah,
clearly. If I saw that, I wouldn't need what you have because I'm already full
yeah,
up, right? Like greed, hatred go away when I see things clearly.
yeah.
And so what in working with somebody who's seeing in that gap somewhere,
Yeah.
right? A lot of it, a lot of what seems to be helpful is finding that thing within them already that already accesses the beauty and fullness of life as it is, and
Mhm.
like and blow on the ember of that,
Yeah.
and spark that fire that like I'm a person who has a right and to be happy,
Yeah.
who has people around me who I love, right? Who has the ability to connect with experiences right in front of me, to laugh hard, right?
Yeah.
To love, to grieve, to do those things. And that maybe my life can be less about the Ferrari, although that would be nice. And more about what it means to connect with the people right in front of
Yeah. I love that. Look, I feel like I'm getting some therapy here. So I hope this is helping somebody, because I think we all have those same thoughts in our head, whether we'll admit it or not. And social media plays a big part. I'm not blaming everything on social media, but it feeds the gap. Like, you see the influences, you see the people on the Ferraris, right? And you're like, well, why don't they have that and I don't? I'm over here helping the people, feeding the homeless,
them. Mhm.
and these other people. So it creates the gap, makes the gap inflated.
Yeah. Perfectly, beautifully said, and delusion, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I work with people that are,
Mhm.
I work with folks who are unhoused, and I work
Yeah.
with folks who have they may not have the Ferrari, but they could, right, if
Mhm.
they wanted,
Mhm.
and both suffer in the same way.
Yeah.
And and that might sound crazy, like, all right, get out of here, Mike, that's insane, like somebody
No,
who's
it's true.
like, but when you talk to them, what
Mhm.
lives in their hearts, what like keeps them up at night, it's the
Yeah.
same stuff.
Yeah.
It's unworthiness, it's
Mhm.
not living up to the picture that they think they
Yeah.
should live up to, right? Huge insecurities. I
Yeah.
mean, we see that in public figures now, right?
Mhm.
A cer I hope I don't alienate the audience, but there's a certain political candidate right now who, I mean, wears their insecurity right on
Mhm.
their sleeve, and you can see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And it's sad, because what happens is it normalizes it. So
Yeah.
now you have the people. So
Mm.
the people with the same issues are now like, well, he's wearing it like a badge. I'm gonna wear it like a badge. And it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not a good thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a good thing.
It
And you need to awaken.
Yeah, and and that's the danger of that
Yeah.
gap,
Yes.
because what can happen is like maybe I get like something, I get a promotion, I get
Mhm.
like a new relationship with somebody, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I do close the gap. Maybe I don't close it the whole way, but I
Yeah.
get some like, oh, that worked. That worked. That was great. But it's like my iPhone, right?
Mhm.
Like my brand new oh, the camera is so incredible, right? Like it's so the screen is so clear. Well, just
Yeah.
wait five,
Yeah.
a few years, this
Yeah.
piece of crap and
Yeah.
battery doesn't, same thing. Like these things that I think will fix me,
Yeah.
I get one of them and it
Yeah.
fixes me, but only for a little bit
Yeah.
before boop, something new shows up and I'm
Wow.
chasing it, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with what you were just talking about,
Yeah.
right? You know, it feels good. The dopamine hits, like I
Yeah.
can I can yell and be like, yeah, I can lean into to like my manness, right? And
Yeah.
it feels good. But then something happens, like
Mhm.
I'm not the father I need to be.
Mhm.
I'm not the husband or the
Yeah.
partner, right? And all of a sudden, like there's suffering in my life. There it is again. And
Yeah.
until I can like transform that stuff, I'm destined to play out the same
Right.
cycle.
So things are not going to help you close the gap, because we know things are temporary. They're not,
That's it.
so we don't want to base closing the gap based off of things. That was really, really good. Very mindful.
Hey, thanks.
I love that. I love it. Now, let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about suicide and men.
Yeah.
What's going on with the dudes?
So suicide is an epidemic among everyone these days,
Mm-hmm.
right? We know that the rate of suicide in our country has increased dramatically since
Mm-hmm.
the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
We know that predominantly men seem to be more, um, gosh, I can't, I use
It's
this,
not a great word to say, but you can
forgive
use
me,
it.
are more successful
Yeah.
at dying by suicide because they have a tendency to use more violent means.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we also know that suicide is less about um, that suicide is again like the other forms of suffering,
Mm-hmm.
that it is a delusion that who I am as a person, uh, that I will be less of a burden to
Mm-hmm.
life, to that I have no right to this life,
Mm-hmm.
right? That it is not seeing clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Often suicidal ideation, like sort of the daydream of suicide,
Yeah.
like often can be more about I just don't want this life. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
I need some sort of change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that the jump, the like awful tragic leap between I just need a change and the act of suicide comes in the form of um, not having a path of hope and of
Mm-hmm.
meaning and the ability uh, to find a way to follow that ember in their
Mm-hmm.
heart, that
Mm-hmm.
the story of their life of is so tragic and difficult that they succumb to it.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so, in working with men who are experiencing profound, uh, well, uh, first and foremost, the the number that I would want everybody on the podcast to know is 988,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like 911, 988 is 24 by 7 text, call, chat. You can get help if you or someone you know is having thoughts of self-harm or suicide, that they can reach out and get help.
Yes.
uh, Understanding that they are worth, that the most wonderful moments of life are still accessible to each one of us
Mhm.
regardless of the circumstances that we might currently be living in.
Yeah.
It um yeah, sorry. There's a lot. I lost my train of thought just in thinking of how profound.
You went too deep, Mike. You went
Yeah,
too deep.
forgive me.
No, but I get what you're saying, that that is what you've heard from your clients when they come in and they've literally lost hope. So it is about helping them to redefine reality, right? To be able to see a different scenario or see a different outcome as opposed to being consumed with the right now. So, not taking the temporary situation and making it the lifetime. And I think, and I'm grateful that you shared that number, 988, so that if anybody is listening to this, if you share it with someone else, whoever is listening or watching, you know that there is help available. You may not be able to get a hold of Mike, you may not be able to get a hold of me, but there is help available 24/7. So I don't want us to stay in that zone of heaviness and sadness. Let's talk a little bit about the art of Monday morning.
All right. So the so the art of Monday morning is my company that I use to teach organizations uh, and individuals, and I work with folks from all walks of life and companies of all different types, where we teach. What's interesting is the same kind of. It's funny, but working with a company or working with somebody who's having issues at work,
Yeah.
right? When you scratch the surface of that kind of problem they're working with, you
Mm-hmm.
find that at the root of it is the very same stuff that somebody who's dealing with something that you would think is more profound, but it's the
Mm-hmm.
same stuff. It's the same, the power of the story I create in my own mind, right, about myself and my life, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, that drives how I think about my life, and that
Yeah.
drives how I feel about it, right? And so the art of Monday morning, we teach skills, practices to be able to better get my arms around what is the story I'm telling myself,
Mm-hmm.
and what is a different story I can tell that's every bit as true, right? Because here's, the power of positive thinking is a wonderful thing, right? But a lot of times it doesn't work very well because I don't believe it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
think this way, right? But there's just like that thought experiment we did earlier about finding the person in our heart. Like, I can do that with a lot of different things in my life. I can find a different way to uh, look at what's happening in my life, all the way back to talking about suicide again, right?
Yeah.
Like, suicide fundamentally is driven by a story. It might be a very like profound story. It might be a very difficult story to
Mm-hmm.
prove as incorrect.
Yeah.
So instead of saying no, that's wrong, it
Right.
becomes more about, in my practice,
Yeah.
more about finding another story that is more powerful, that already is in your heart, that's already accessible to you,
Yeah.
that helps you to see that you don't have to take actions that are harmful or cause you or others to suffer. So that's what we do at the Art of the Monday
Yes.
Order.
I love that. That's good. That's good. And now I'm hearing you are a new author as
I
well.
am. I am. Thank you. I just put out a book uh, just a week ago. I just released it a week ago, called Refuge in Small Things,
Yes.
and uh, it, it's a book of 108 very short Buddhist teachings, lessons, parables, reflections, designed essentially just like what we've been talking about, designed to hopefully find something within our hearts already, right? And to allow that to blossom, to grow. So I'm very excited to be sharing that, and hopefully,
Well, congratulations
thank
on
you.
the new book. Listen, everyone, again, we know the holidays are fast approaching. Why not get the man you love something unique for the holidays?
Right.
What about if you got him something that could empower him, right? That could strong arm him and teach him how to tell another story? Because, truth be told, not all men will tell you how they feel, or they'll tell you that surface story, but to help them get to the root of it, to find the refuge in small things, I think would be a great asset to any man's library. So make certain you all get a copy of that book. I'm going to have the link in the description box. You'll be able to click on it. You can get it from Amazon, but I'm also going to have the website in there so you can get it exactly straight from the source. You can get it from the website. And this way you will connect with Mike a little bit deeper. Make certain you're following him on Instagram, The Art of Monday Morning. You check out that website as well so that you have these resources. And if you never, ever, ever need to utilize Mike's services, consider yourself blessed. But if you ever do need to utilize his services, consider yourself blessed as well, because he's here. You can connect with him, and he's a wealth of knowledge, and he's a fun guy too, right? So thank you so much, Mike, for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. Do you have any parting words you'd like to leave with us?
I would just want everybody to do the good that's in front of them, whatever that is, the people in front of you, the, the love that you have, as best as you can, recognize that and be well. That's all.
I love it. Mike, thank you so much. Hang out for just a second. Let me give the people their marching orders. Listen, I'm telling you guys, make certain you get that book in your library because you never know what it is that you can glean. And ladies, it's not just for men. We can learn something from it as well. So we want to make certain that we are gearing ourselves up to our own awakening, and we should be awakening every single day. So I thank you all for joining us for this week's segment of the Black Girl Encourage Her. You know, we got some more good stuff coming up. So make certain you are subscribed and you are sharing this out so that we can get the masses on the same page. Until next time, you all be blessed. Take care.